You might be wondering why there is a revival in the progressive movement. Why are so many people voting for the Justice Democrats? What's going on? Well, first, to answer that, let's look to the Bible. And in the Bible, we look to Matthew chapter 22 and verses 36 to 40. Nutshell, they ask Christ, what are the greatest commandments? Christ says, look, love God and love your neighbor yourself. Then in Luke 10, questions asked, well, who's my neighbor? The answer is anyone in need. You must show love, compassion, concern for all human beings, for there's one race, it's called the human race. Now, what's going on? What is it? Why is there a revival going on in the progressive movement? And the answer is found in Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos of Community by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That's a must-read book. You can also find the answer in Dog Whistle Politics, How Coded Racial Appeals Have Reinvented Racism and Wrecked the Middle Class. You can find it in Atom by Atom, an autobiography of Reverend Congressman Adam Clayton Powell Jr., The War on Poverty, Civil Rights Bill of 1964, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 were passed because of him also. Dr. King was in the streets and Reverend Powell was in Congress, and they were all working together. Oh, by the way, here we go. Take a look at these persons here, representatives. Part of your history as you're learning is you have to learn history, okay? The Civil Rights Act of 1875. You know what it said? Treat everybody equally, okay? That's what it says. Treat everybody equally. Hold it. 1875? Here's a question. If this act was passed in 1875, why did we need another act almost 100 years later in 1964? Oh, and the answer is Supreme Court in the civil rights cases, 109 U.S. 3, 1883, a racist Supreme Court said, hey, it's okay to treat people of color differently. Now, there was a dissent by Justice Harlan, all right? And that dissent later was used to support Brown versus Board of Education. Also, let me point out this fact. As you read, I want you also to listen to Dr. King's March 25th, 1965 Selma speech. And he makes this point, that blacks and whites were voting together, progressively, for schools, for bills that would help all people. And one reason they instituted segregation was to keep blacks and whites from working together, voting together, moving forward together, lifting up the Constitution of the United States of America together, okay? Now, what's the answer to why the progressive movement has been revived? The answer is, in a nutshell, the Southern strategy. That finally, someone is pushing back on the Southern strategy. And by the way, it started centuries ago, the Southern strategy, all right? But if you look at the book, Dog Whistle Politics, and let's look at the introduction, okay? And you can get these books online, of course, and you can buy them and put them in your iPad, everything like that and all. But here's what it says. Introduction, Racial Politics in the Middle Class. Let's start with an open secret. Republicans rely on racial entities to help win elections. In 2010, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Michael Steele, acknowledged that for the last 40 plus years, we had a, quote, Southern strategy that alienated many minority voters by focusing on the white male vote in the South, end of quote. Steele was echoing the remarks of another head of the Republican National Committee, Ken Melman. In 2005, he used a speech before the NAACP to admit that his party had exploited racial divisions and had been wrong to do so. By the 70s into the 80s and 90s, Millman said from a prepared text, quote, Republicans gave up on winning the African American vote, looking the other way, or trying to benefit politically from racial polarization. I'm here today as the Republican chairman to tell you we were wrong. Wow. These apologies are once confessed to racial pandering and also implicitly promise to sin no more. This is a promise that the GOP will struggle to fill, for this party is now essentially defined by race. It is almost exclusively supported by and composed of whites. In the 2012 presidential election, 88% of the voters who pulled the lever for the GOP candidates were white. That means that whites make up roughly 9 out of every 10 persons who threw in with Mitch Romney. Even more startling, among state-level elected Republican officials nationwide, 98% are white, notwithstanding some prominent minority faces push to the forge to suggest otherwise. This is a party of white persons. Yet this open secret receives surprisingly little attention. From conservatives, there's occasional mea culpa, but much more typically there's a firm insistence that the GOP does not notice race, followed by the outrage resort that any suggestion otherwise is not only unfounded, but a contemptible playing of the race card. Now here's why there's a revival in the progressives, the revival in helping people, seeing people as human beings. There's one race, the human race. Here's what the author, Professor Ian Handy Lopez says. From the Democratic Party, there's a resounding silence. From the Democratic Party, there's a resounding silence. From the Democratic Party, there's a resounding silence. Even from liberal commentators, there's only a murmured objection. See, the reason why progressives are doing so well, the reason why Justice Democrats are doing so well, reason why the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for more revival, which was a revival of Dr. King's Poor People Campaign that he was engaged in 1968. And by the way, you can go to june2020.org to find out more about that. Reason why TYT does so well, tyt.com, go to that. You can also go to justicedemocrats.com, okay? You go to breachrepairers.org, okay, and learn more and more information. The reason why there is a revival in the progressive movement, the reason why the Justice Democrats are doing so well is because they are fighting back on the Southern strategy. They are bringing together our white brothers and sisters, our black brothers and sisters, our Latino brothers and sisters, our Asian brothers and sisters, our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters, everybody for this one race, the human race. This is the coalition that they tried to stop right after slavery. Read the books. It's all in there, okay? All the history is there. Don't forget the Civil Rights Act of 1875 and what happened to it, okay? This coalition is together, and because we have a coalition, multiracial, multicultural, multi-class, multi-gender, this is why there is a revival. This is why the candidates are doing so well. Because the bottom line is this: if I'm a poor white person and the person over there is a poor African American, guess what? We're the same people, okay? We have the same problems. So what? The black person has a little more melanin than him or her. All right. When you can see beyond race, all right, see beyond color, people come together on the issues, and the issues are we all need free healthcare, just like the rest of the world, majority of the world. We all need what? Loan forgiveness for our kids. We bailed out we bailed out Wall Street. Time to bail out Main Street. Okay. We all need housing. We all need a what? Livable, sustainable wage. All people, everywhere. It's time to end poverty throughout America and really even the world. So there's revival. Why? Because people are coming together as human beings. They are beginning to understand that there's one race, the human race. We're all in the same boat together, and we're going to move forward together. That's why there is a revival.